Guys, this movie has everything. Aesthetics akin to the Jetsons. Pedro Pascal in his 14th summer film this year. A baby born on a spaceship. The Thing with a beard. A naked, shiny Julia Garner on a surfboard. Natasha Lyonne. And that thing where it's a movie based on a bunch of other movies that it draws from because it's a CBM comic book IP. Or is this just a good movie? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the garage. Gerald here with you again. I want to do a quick movie review for you for Fantastic Four: First Steps. A lot of people that watch my channel regularly might be like, oh God, Gerald went to see another superhero movie. Here comes the bashing. Guys, I think I might like this movie. What year is it? Against the vibrant backdrop of a 1960s inspired retro futuristic world, Marvel's first family is forced to balance their roles as heroes with the strength of their family bond, while defending Earth from a ravenous space god called Galactus. There is a lot that I liked about this movie, and I think the main thing that I'll just get out of the way is that I was not expecting to really like anything about the film. Maybe a performance here or there, but this movie from beginning to end was very likable for me. I was dialed in. So this is going to be a spoiler-free review, and I'm not the guy to connect all the dots to the other things in the MCU. I pretty much stopped my kind of religious watching of these films with Avengers Endgame, and everything that's come out since then. There's been a few here and there that I have enjoyed. Most recently, Thunderbolts with Florence Pugh I really liked. And now that First Steps is coming off the back of that film, it has me thinking, are we back in an upwards pattern with the MCU and with comic book films in general? And the reason that I think I liked it so much is that it told its story. The issue that I have personally with a lot of stuff since the MCU really started being built and Disney Plus got involved with TV shows is everything connects to everything else. And I get it. I understand if you're a super fan or if you're somebody who follows this, that's really aesthetically pleasing to you to be able to pick out Easter eggs or how this character was married to this character in a past edition of a comic or whatever. But truth be told, the general audience is not going to be as dialed in on that type of stuff. So I always had the argument, and Thunderbolts kind of did this as well, where if you just go in and the filmmaker just says, here's our 2-hour story. This is the movie that we're making. We don't care what Thanos is doing in another universe or which realm Ant-Man is in. Like, we don't care about any of that shit. I love that. It had virtually no callbacks or references to anything else in the MCU until the end credit scenes, which I don't have a problem with that. That's the connectivity that you need to lead you into the next installment. But you don't need to spend multiple frames and scenes of your movie bringing in a multitude of characters that are kind of crowding the space of whoever the focus of the film is supposed to be, in this case, the Fantastic Four. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, it was very unique. The production design is absolutely flawless in this film. As you know, I do Oscar predictions here on my channel very regularly, and I'm actually considering Fantastic Four in a production design situation. That's how good it was. I mentioned jokingly in my cold open about how it kind of reminded me of the Jetsons cartoon from the 1980s, but that's basically what it is. It's like futuristic. Obviously, there's spaceships and all kinds of shit going on, different time travel devices, transporting, teleporting, all that shit. But everything furniture-wise, the cars, the businesses along the street are all like 1960s retro, vintage inspired. It's literally like the 1960s got into a huge bubble and was transported, 100 years into the future. And then when it comes to performances, Pedro Pascal, I also joked about him in the cold open being in 14 movies this year. I don't think he's been in that many, although if I did hear that he was in that many, I would not be surprised. But he was decent here. I did feel like the melodrama was a bit much with his character. Reed Richards, he got a little too serious at times, where the tone was a little too like, I'm trying to win an Oscar, to be or not to be. When it's like, dude, you're Reed Richards in a comic book movie, you're fine. I've always kind of thought that Pedro was a bit miscast in this role. That doesn't mean that he gave a bad performance in the film. I just don't really see him in this role, and I still don't after seeing the movie, even though it was a commendable effort. I love Vanessa Kirby in the film. You guys know I'm a fanboy of hers anyway. I think she's one of the best actresses that we have, and I was a little conflicted when I heard she was going to be in an MCU project because I don't want to see her career kind of go off the indie path or the awards-worthy path, if you will, to go down this paycheck phoning it in path, which I'm not saying that she's doing that, but she's getting her money, that's for sure, because she's in an MCU project. Julia Garner is playing the Silver Surfer in the movie. There was a lot of controversy around her casting, but I also love her as an actress as well. Everything she's in, she's phenomenal, including when I first was introduced to her in the Ozark TV series as Ruth. Man, that is, to this day, is still some of the best acting I've seen in this century on any medium. And I didn't mind the story of Fantastic Four either. You know, a lot of times in the comic book or the superhero films, the story is so outlandish and so far-fetched and so fictional. It goes so far on that side where you have to suspend, disbelief. You have to suspend it in most movies, but in these superhero movies, it's like you have to suspend the suspension. I mean, it's crazy. Even though that was the case here with the villain Galactus and Silver Surfer as kind of his right-hand woman, it kind of worked for me because they did a nice job of kind of building to it and keeping you grounded in this kind of world building that they did, like I said, which mirrored basically a vintage 1960s era. And the movie was under 2 hours. I mean, 115 minutes for a superhero movie. They don't focus on the origin, which is another thing that I really liked. You don't need to waste that time on, that's already been done twice. And one of the films, which is not very good, the whole damn movie was the origin. In this movie, they plop you down in, I think, the 4th year of them being a formed group, the Fantastic Four. And they do this thing where they show stock footage of like newsreels and newscasts, and that's how you find out the different missions that they've been on and how they got their powers. So it was a really inventive way to kind of tell that backstory without having to spend an hour or an hour and a half doing it by showing you all those scenes. When it comes to the negatives, there's not really a bunch. The main negative that jumps out at me is the pacing. And I mentioned the melodrama and kind of like the serious acting, dramatic stuff that's happening in the movie was kind of overlong in the first half of the film, and there weren't a ton of action sequences kind of sparse throughout that. We really only got one. And then in the second half of the movie, it's like they flipped a switch and it turned into like the old school Avengers films where it was like nothing but comic book battles and superheroes and villains. So I wish they had spaced that out a little bit better throughout the film instead of waiting so long to kind of get started. Look, along with Thunderbolts, the Fantastic Four First Steps are two of the best comic book movies I've seen since Avengers Endgame. I am checked out on the superhero genre, but if they keep doing wholly original projects like this that are based on characters, of course, in comics, but it's just that story, and that's all I have to care about to go see it. And then if it hooks me with the credit scene, and by the way, there's two in this movie. There's a mid-credits and an end-credits, so you will want to stick around, at least for the mid-credits. That one's pretty important. But if it hooks me with that, and I really like this one, which I did, then I'm going to go see it. And then show me that movie. Which was that going to be Secret Wars, I guess, or Doomsday? Show me that film. And then at the end, here's a hook for next time. Oh, okay, I'll check that out. I like that type of storytelling. As you guys know, I do the craft score and the crux score, and then I will give you my overall score. So the craft from me on Fantastic Four is going to get a 9 out of 10. I already mentioned the production design. The score is phenomenal in this film. And the CGI, the effects, I didn't talk about the visual effects in my review, but man, there was only one scene where Reed is climbing up Galactus that it's a little choppy, but it's like a 10-second moment versus a 2-hour film. All the other visual effects, I'm not even kidding you, were flawless. They looked really, really good. And I was really impressed because I thought another thing going into this, which is a little something that Superman suffered from a couple weeks ago, is I just think that it's going to be choppy, it's going to be kind of ugly at times because it's hard to do with all these fast motions. And in this movie, they nailed it for the most part. 95% of the effects in this film were top tier, and I could not even notice, including the Silver Surfer. So great job there, 9 out of 10 on the craft side of things. When it comes to the crux score, which is basically everything else, the tangible stuff, the performances, the story, the script, and the pacing, which I said did bring it down a little bit for me. But that's still going to be a 7 out of 10 on the crux, which is going to give Fantastic Four The First Steps from me an unbelievable 8 out of 10. Holy shit. I got to go back and look at my letterbox. I cannot even remember the last time I gave a superhero movie an 8. I know I gave Thunderbolts a 7. I did like that one a lot, but I didn't give it an 8. Guys, are you planning on seeing the new Fantastic Four this weekend? Are you excited for it? Have you seen it? By the time you come to this video, let me know either way down below. I want to hear what you think of the movie. I will see you guys out here next time in the garage.